Hi guys, how you doing this afternoon? I hope you're doing well in Sydney. If you're in Sydney, the weather is beautiful, but wherever you are, I hope it's beautiful as well. My name's Robbie Keswick. I'm the campus manager in Sydney for Australian Pacific College and English Unlimited, and we have a very special treat for you today. As you know, or as you probably know, we've been doing lots of webinars and masterclasses since we've gone into the virtual learning environment, and we are very, very pleased today to be hosting a masterclass for you, how to make YouTube videos like the pros. This is brought to you by Social Media College, who provide our Diploma of Social Media Marketing qualification for us. Yeah, we're very excited to bring it to you. If we go to the next slide, please, Gareth. Gareth, thank you very much. Okay, so we have the Diploma of Social Media Marketing here at Australian Pacific College, as many of you will know. And right now we have tuition fee relief, which means that per term, it's only $1,000. So if that's 4 terms for the qualification, that's $4,000 for the whole thing. If you sign up by the 31st of December this year. If you don't sign up by the 31st of December this year, tuition fee relief will end at the end of term 2, which is the end of June in 2021. So we'll maybe talk about this a little bit later on in terms of fees at the very end of the presentation, but I'll just very soon throw it over to Gareth from Social Media College. But before I do, I'll just ask you a quick question, just so we know who we're talking to. Which best describes you? I'm an APC EU student, I'm an agent partner, I'm a student from somewhere else, or none of the above. Maybe you're just interested in social media, which is, you know, a good thing to be, right? A really good mix. It's interesting, actually. I'll give you a few more seconds to answer. People from all over the place, a lot of general interest in social media. That's good to see. All right. Yeah, interesting mix of you there. Most of you are students, our current students, but then there are a few people who are from outside and a couple of agents in here too, so that's nice to see. Without any further ado, I will hand it over to Gareth Kidd from Social Media College to take it away.
Just realized I had to do my own unmuting and everything for the team. All good. I was sitting here in silence. Wasn't too sure if I was meant to dive on earlier. Thank you for that, Robbie.
You're all good, my friend.
Brilliant. Team, looking forward to taking you through all the content this afternoon on YouTube and how to make YouTube videos like the pros. My name is Gareth Kidd. I don't want to spend too much time on myself because I feel a bit awkward doing so. But my background, I am a social media trainer and strategist. So I spend an awful lot of my time doing training sessions like this, like the masterclass with APC, which is an awful lot of fun, speaking to you guys about social media and all the trimmings that come with it. I'm also a co-author of the Diploma of Social Media Marketing. So if you're a current student of that, absolutely hope you're really enjoying it and finding it really enthralling. We really enjoyed bringing it together with you guys as well as APC, which is fantastic. Throughout the course of the masterclass, I will sort of be reaching out to you guys. If you have a question, feel free, as it's just been popped up there by Robbie, if you do have a question, feel free to throw it into the Q&A section because I will try to stop at different stages of tonight, this afternoon's masterclass, but also spend some time at the end if there are some questions. But I'd encourage you, if you do have a question as we're going through, throw it in the Q&A because you might forget by the time we get to the next slide. So it's always great to throw it out there as you think of that amazing question. I will also be calling on you guys at different stages to engage with me on the chat as well. So if you're at your PC, ideally have that chat box nice and handy so I can throw to you, ask you a couple of questions and see your experiences, knowledge and insights around YouTube as we step through the content today. Wanted to start off with a little bit of a, I guess, almost a question for everyone on the call. You don't have to answer this in the chat, but feel free to give me a bit of insight. Have you ever just gone onto YouTube thinking, you know, I'll watch a quick music video, and then like an hour later, you find yourself watching a tutorial about how to talk to a giraffe? It is an incredible platform, and I'm sure that we've all at some stage jumped onto YouTube for one quick purpose. Maybe we're looking at a how-to video, maybe you just wanted to see like a music video or a snippet of an upcoming film, and all of a sudden, thanks to those recommended videos, we spend an hour there just consuming video after video. One of the amazing things about YouTube, it's one of the amazing things about video content is that it just keeps us so engaged. And so today, I really want to impart to you guys how to make YouTube videos like the pros. So I'm going to give you a couple of key elements as to where we're going to be going over the next course of the rest of the hour. First, I want to talk to you about why YouTube matters. Why is it that we talk about YouTube as such an important part of video, and particularly with that social media context? So, like with any social media session, I'm going to have to throw a couple of stats at you and then give you a little bit of insight behind those. A couple of advantages if you're currently studying this diploma of social media marketing, or interested in business, or you're just interested in marketing in general. Talk about the advantages of YouTube as a channel for us to put our video up and connect with people. And then also touch on playlists as well, and how they play into a part of the amazing beast that is YouTube. Then going to talk about writing a great script. And part of that's also storyboarding. So I'll give you a little bit of a heads up on that one. How to hook people in, keep them, and then convert them. So how to make sure that we plan very, very strategically about our video. So it's not just a mishmash of content that we pull together, but we're actually thinking about how we're trying to get the most out of it. And then if you're going to do it like the pro, we're going to talk about the equipment, some thumbnails, and also the video editing. Depending on how experienced you are, whether you are absolutely green, you've never made a video before, or maybe you've actually dabbled and started using things like iMovie to create your own content. Regardless, we'll talk about the equipment, the thumbnails, and how to begin to pull that all together so your content looks nice and sleek and nice and professional. So just starting off the bat is how important YouTube is. I dare say I'd be interested if there was someone who hadn't been on YouTube at some stage this week, whether by deliberate nature or you just followed a link there. But this is actually some stats that come out from an amazing report from We Are Social and Hootsuite, which are two key players in the social media space. But basically, when it comes to social media platforms that we use in Australia, YouTube and Facebook are enormous. 80% of social media users in Australia are using these two social media platforms. But YouTube as well, like I mentioned, is just such an incredible piece. It is where we think about when we think about video content. Where we tend to go to consume amazing and engaging videos, which is exactly what we'll be talking about today. So that's one of the reasons why YouTube is such an important part of the social media strategy for most businesses, because this is where we have people who are consuming video content. We talk about Australia, so more specifically in Australia, how it's being utilised. 77% of Australia's online video viewing population, well, that's a tough word on a Friday afternoon, population, are watching video on YouTube. It really is synonymous with video. Yes, obviously we've got lots of video on Facebook and YouTube. A lot of people, Facebook and Instagram. A lot of people are consuming video on those two platforms, but YouTube very much is a cornerstone for video content. There's 10 million unique users every month just in Australia. So what our population here is about 25 million. So about 40% of Australians are logging on or consuming content on YouTube every single month. So it's really huge about how many people are coming back to this network every month just to watch video. Because it's not like you can see status updates or the Instagram feed on YouTube. You're coming here specifically to consume that video content. There's 1.4 billion streams per month in Australia, which, once again, if you think of that, about that number in the context of how many Aussies there are, it's a lot of streams per person. It's also not, I'm going to sound very old here. It's not so much a younger person's platform as well. Quite often when we think social media, people immediately think, oh, social media, it's just young people with their TikToks and their tweets and stuff. But YouTube it runs across the board by way of Australians in the usage. So 2/3 of Australia's YouTube audience is actually 35 years or older. So it really does hit all demographics. So it's not that, it's just young people. It is from young to old that are consuming video content on YouTube. One thing that's also really interesting is that 50% of global YouTube video views are from mobile devices, and about 70% of the time spent on the platform is on a mobile, which is strange because back in the day we used to always think, well, if you're watching video, you're probably doing it on a laptop because it's connected to your broadband at home. But so many more people, and it's got a bigger screen as well. But these days, so many more people are using YouTube on their mobile devices. Interestingly enough, as well, is the session times are about half an hour on a mobile device. So when people jump onto YouTube, they are watching a lot of content at one time, and it's not just on desktop; it's across all devices. That's also something we need to think about when we think about the actual video content we're producing. Is we want to make sure it looks good on our 3.7-inch smartphones. Make sure that message and that amazing video we've created looks good for someone who is looking at it on a mobile device. we're talking about some of the advantages for organizations. So whether you're thinking about using YouTube for your business or your brand, maybe it's a company you're looking to work for, maybe you're starting up your own side hustle, maybe you're just thinking about producing YouTube videos just for the sake of it because you see it as an amazing creative outlet for yourself. Some of the amazing advantages that YouTube offers are on the screen here, and I want to talk through them. So first off, I've touched on this, it's a massive audience. 10 million Australians are on there, 10 million unique Australians are on there every single month. And it's 2 billion globally. So about a quarter of the world's population are on YouTube every single month. So it's a massive audience. A lot of brands and organizations, so businesses, will also use it as a video repository because it's amazing to be able to just pop videos up there online. You can have a listed video, which means anyone can see it, but you can also have it hidden. So maybe you're just looking to share it internally. Quite often, a lot of people use YouTube as that video repository to be able to pop it up there and then share it elsewhere. Typically, YouTube has a much longer viewing time. And so to talk about that, think about yourself. When you're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, you're skipping through, and there might be a video there. You might watch a couple of seconds of it, 30 or 40 seconds. Typically on YouTube, people are watching 10 times longer video. So actually spending they're not spending a lot of time on the platform, they're actually watching longer videos as well, which for us, if you're a brand or an organization or just a creator, it means you've got a lot longer time to spend with your audience and share your amazing content. Quite often, people will use it to embed on other sites, which sort of goes in with that video repository thing. So as an example, if you've got a website for your brand, your business, whatever the case may be, you can link your YouTube content to that page. So that way it's embedded there. So if someone comes across to your web page, they can click the video, which is streamed. So you're not worried about the hosting. In fact, I've actually got a video embedded in this PowerPoint file a little bit later as well to show you guys. So that's some of the amazing things that you can do from that embedding element. So when the content is up there on YouTube, you can then share it through other embedding means. Also, there's comments. Just like most social media networks, you've got the comments at the bottom, which allow you to engage with your audience. So you can have that dialogue. You can have a two-way conversation with your audience. There's also the ability to advertise and promote. Some of us might find that a little bit challenging sometimes. You're sitting there, you're watching a video, and then all of a sudden an advertisement comes up. For us as organizations and brands and businesses, that can be a great opportunity to get our message in front of a new audience, to actually advertise and promote our brand. Like and dislike buttons. So it's actually one of the few networks that actually has the thumbs down button. When you think about Instagram, Twitter, Facebook has reactions, but that's actually somewhat great for us. We can get good feedback. We can sit there and we can get votes up, votes down, and get a bit of an understanding about how our audience feels about that content. Do they like our content? Does it annoy them? There's the opportunity, obviously, like I said, for them to leave comments as well. The advantage means that we can actually get feedback on our content. You can drive awareness and web traffic. So when you're putting up that content, obviously you're reaching people who you might not have been able to speak to on the phone or in your traditional ways of marketing. You'll also notice yourself that when you're looking at a couple of videos on YouTube, quite often people put links to their website, links to their product pages, etc., in the body of the YouTube post itself. So it can be a great way to drive people off YouTube back to your website to find out more about your brand. Now, one thing which is really key, and I think it's probably the element that makes YouTube the most unique, is it's really driven by search. So another quick stat is YouTube is actually the second largest search engine globally. So it's second to Google, and obviously YouTube does own Google. Google has about 3 billion searches a day. YouTube only has 3 billion a month, only, I say. But it's very search driven. And when you think about people using it, maybe yourselves as well, people are typically typing in and looking for content. It's not like Facebook where we're scrolling through our news feed and we happen across video content and other content from our friends and family and businesses, etc. And people are actually searching for content on YouTube. That's actually really good for us because it means if we do a couple of things like use keywords, and I'll talk to that a little bit later in today's session, but people might actually find our video 3, 4, 5 months down the track, maybe in 2 years down the track. As opposed to Facebook, where if you put up a post in a day or two, it's very unlikely that anyone else will see it in their newsfeed because quite often it's very current content. But because it's so search-driven, if you've got great search terms around your video that you've posted, people can actually find your content well and truly down the line. So it means that you can actually get longer lifetime out of your YouTube content if you've effectively published it on YouTube. that's really exciting. There's some of the advantages for us using YouTube, whether it's for a branded business or even ourselves beginning to build ourselves as a creator. So I'd love to very quickly do this. So if you've got your chat box handy, what I'd love you to do is what is your favorite YouTube channel? Do you have a favorite YouTube channel? If you don't, I'm hoping it's either APC or Social Media College. What is your favorite YouTube channel? If you have 2 seconds, quickly just jump on YouTube, search it, see how many subscribers they have. I'd love you to throw both of those in the chat box. Think about some of the pages and the channels that you follow. What is it that really brings you in? What is it that makes you subscribe to their channel? So feel free to throw that into the chat there. What's your favorite channel and how many subscribers do they have? Love to hear that from you in the chat. Like I mentioned, if you don't have a favorite at the moment, absolutely follow APC and Social Media College. Always putting out great content. But feel free to give us a yell and tell us what your favorite YouTube channel is. And I'll be kicking back to those as we step through the session. So that's a little bit about the value of YouTube itself for us as creators, as businesses, as marketers. Now I want to talk about how to do it. How are we going to actually create this content, starting at the video production stages. So there are effectively 3 video production stages. So what we're saying here is there's 3 steps or 3 parts to creating an amazing video. The first is pre-production. So everything we do before the production. Then there's production, and then there's post-production. Very logically laid out names, aren't they? At the pre-production stage, this is where we think about the script, etc. How we're going to plan for our video, how we're going to make sure that we think about everything that we're going to that we want to capture and promote in this video. The production stage is pretty much where the rubber meets the road, to use a very old term. That's going to be things like who's going to do the recording, what equipment do you have available, if you're recording on your phone, will your audio be strong enough, do you need to outsource it to a qualified videographer or animator? At that stage, we're just thinking about everything that we need during that production stage. And that's also when we'll be doing the actual filming. We're going to be going out on set or filming in the office, whatever the case is. That's where actually magic happens. We actually begin to capture the content. Artie, you love Smo Nova, one cool channel, over 103 subscribers. Oof, I wish I had that sort of audience. The last stage is the post-production. Quite often this can actually be really quite a hefty piece of it. This is where you do things like you edit it, you review it, you amend, you put your branding in, you do all those polished things that make those YouTube videos really stand out, as opposed to just be something that we've grabbed on our smartphone and we're maybe sharing through WhatsApp or to our friends and family. That post-production is where we make it look incredibly polished and incredibly user-friendly as well. So we can really get our messages across as businesses, as marketers. Very French trip with 32,000 from Namiko. That's fantastic. Once again, some really large audiences there. So when we're in this pre-production stage, what we need to do is we need to think strategically about our video. We first and foremost need to think, what are we going to do? What is the purpose of this video? And typically, they're going to fall into 4 buckets. It's either going to educate people. So we're actually we may be educating and telling our audience how to do something. The most common search string on YouTube, so searching a tool, is actually how to. So people actually going onto YouTube and, like I said, using it as a search engine and going how to screw in a light bulb, how to make a YouTube video, how to cook a spaghetti bolognese. People are there looking for that information, what we call utility content. And so for us, it's a great opportunity to educate people. The other purpose we can have is to entertain them. Make them laugh, make them cry, make them think about something, but provide them with some sort of entertainment. Inspiration is also an amazing purpose for your content. Maybe, once again, if you're a business or a brand, you might be thinking about how can we tell an amazing story of one of our customers, not putting ourselves at the forefront. How can we tell an amazing story about some of our customers and the amazing things that they do and inspire our audience? The last purpose that we can have with our content is to convince, and that's sort of your sales element, right? As that might be, trying to convince your audience to purchase your product, to subscribe to your service, or even if you're just trying to get a message across, convince them that your message is the right message. Quite often, this might be things like unboxing videos, or product walkthroughs. So you're showcasing how to use your product or how using your product is so incredible. Like I mentioned, when we first get started, before we turn our camera on, before we write a script, we've got to think, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve with this YouTube video? Because if we don't, we're just going to make vanilla content. Got a few more. Bueno ideas. That's 850K. That's incredible as well. Chameleon and Aussie Man. Aussie Man's got some very funny content. That's one that would absolutely fit into the entertainment. Not quite there to educate or inspire, but very entertaining stuff. Brilliant team. Love to see those coming through. So once we've got the purpose, I've got to tell you, building a script is such an important element of a YouTube video for success. First off, by actually creating a script, you're going to be able to make sure that you actually structure your content. And that's going to be really important. It's going to save you time. It's going to make the whole process a lot easier. And over the course of the next couple of slides, I'm going to tell you what makes a great YouTube script. First and foremost is that purpose. Like I mentioned, think about what is a clear idea that you want to, that you have going into this YouTube. Are you looking to educate your audience? Okay, great. If you are, what is it? What are you trying to educate your audience on? What are the topics that you want to tackle, and how are you going to get that message across to them? Are you looking at entertaining them? Great, fantastic. What's going to make them laugh? Know your audience. It's really important at this stage to make sure you have a strong understanding about who your target audience is. We talk a lot in marketing in general, but obviously in social media marketing, about having strong audience personas. And your audience personas are basically fictional representations of your ideal customer, people you want to talk to, people who you want to buy your product, subscribe to your service, or understand your message. Are you going to inspire them? If so, what inspires your type of audience? What is the sort of imagery and content that's really going to be uplifting to them? And if it's convincing, well, fantastic. Now we've got the purpose. How are we going to convince our audience of exactly what we talked about on the previous slide? Making sure that you start with a purpose is going to make sure that you create your video with that idea in mind. And so that the whole way through, it's going to frame up all the content that we produce and how we message it. When we're writing a great script, once we've got the purpose, the next thing is a great hook. I'm sure that at some stage we have all jumped onto YouTube, we've clicked on a video, and we've watched 10, 15, 20 seconds, gotten bored, and then moved to the next video, or even just jumped on another platform. When your audience decides to click and watch your video, you want to make sure you grab them immediately so that they're really enthralled and they continue to watch your video. I mean, there's a variety of different ways that we can do this. We could use a mind-blowing statistic. So you might actually start like with did you know that YouTube is the second largest search engine with 3 billion searches a month? Obviously, just trying to grab people and go, wow, that's incredible. It might be a humorous take on the topic. Like I said, YouTube is a wonderful place for entertaining content, and you might have a really humorous take on the topic that you're tackling, and you throw that at the front to grab that interest from your audience. It could be an anecdote that connects with your audience. If you know your audience is, say, single, mothers with 2 or 3 kids, you go, goodness me, it's really challenging. The other day, I was out with my kids and I was trying to juggle them, and I was trying to juggle the car keys and a water bottle at the same time as trying to pay for a coffee. And that anecdote, if you know your audience well, is going to connect really well with them and create that. You could also ask a thought-provoking question that you plan to answer to really grab them with something that might be one of their pain points. It might be something they've already thought about. Or you can even promise them your value. You could actually say, in this video, I'm going to tell you how to do blah, blah, blah. But in some way, shape, or form, in those first couple of seconds, you want to grab them. You want to make sure that they don't click out of your video or move to the next one. It's also really important to avoid a couple of things before you jump into your hook. So you don't want to start off by introducing yourself. Imagine if you click onto a YouTube video and the first thing is, hi, my name's Gareth from Social Media College. I'm the memberships director there. And all of a sudden you're bored. Like, I mean, I'd like to think that you guys all find me incredibly interesting. But if I start off that way, I'm talking about myself. That's not interesting. I want to talk about what engages you. And that's one of the really important elements to having a strong opening to a YouTube clip. It's also important, don't have a misleading one. Don't try to mislead your audience by promising something you're not going to deliver or anything like that. And keep your hook short. You want it nice and pithy, nice and quick. So something around that sort of 10-second mark. Because when it comes to YouTube, every second does count. Like I mentioned that people are watching much longer content on YouTube, but that doesn't mean you can bore them for a while. So you've got to make sure it's nice and engaging. Now, once you've written that hook, that's when you can introduce yourself. It's really valuable to be able to introduce yourself. Got Jonathan Tanner here, who's the CEO, co-founder, and also the other co-author of this Diploma of Social Media Marketing here on the screen. We've actually got a great clip of where he's halfway through a sentence. But once you've created that hook, once you've got them in, that's when you can introduce yourself. The value on that is you can build your credibility and help increase brand recall when you begin to talk about yourself and the organization you work for. Whether it's your company or whether it's your own brand, maybe it's your own personal brand. Even for those who are trying to build their profile, it's still important to call this out at the beginning. Even if you're thinking you've got that imposter syndrome, you're like, well, why would people know who I am? It's still really valuable to do at the beginning. So include your name, your company, your title, or your role, and your experience on the topic. If you don't have a huge amount of experience, it could just be a passion. I've had 20 years and I've been making my own videos and I'm really enjoying and passionate about this. But have that intro at the front to begin to build your credibility. Next is really the crux, really the meat of it. So this is where we begin to build the body of our script. This is the bulk of the video. This is the value we're going to be giving to our audience. We want to make sure it's really good. We don't want to make crap YouTube videos. And so the important part about that is to make sure that the body is valuable to your audience. Ideally structure it in parts that's really easy for your viewers or your followers to understand and consume themselves. So think about what the main message of your video is and see if you can divide that into multiple chapters or multiple themes. Quite often we do that in the rule of three. So we talk about the rule of three. So even with today's masterclass, you would have noticed I was talking to you about why YouTube is important, how to prepare with your script and your storyboard, and then how to do it like the pros. So I built it into those three sections because that way you can understand all the different elements that we're talking about as we step through them. Now, there is no right or wrong here, but the body of your video will depend on the topic you're covering and also as well whether you're trying to educate, entertain, or inspire. Quite often when it comes to give you guys an example of a useful structure to follow, it could be describe the problem and the solution. So you think about your audience and perhaps going back to that light bulb example, which is great. Perhaps you know that changing a light bulb can be incredibly challenging. If you grip it the wrong way, you can cut your hand. Well, you know what? We've got a great foolproof way to change a light bulb for you. Then you outline the benefits of the solution. So you talk about how your way is going to provide them, the best way to do so, and then describe to them how to actually go about it. So you break it up into those three elements. So you describe the problem and the solution, outline the benefits, and then describe how to go about it. It's just a really simple three-step way. Quite often you might see people talk about the what, the why, and the how. So the what is it, the why is it important, and the how you go about fixing it. But that rule of three can be a really easy way to go about it to make sure that you've got a really good body to your YouTube clip so that people come out having taken some value out of it. You've educated them, entertained them, or inspired them. Remember that you're trying to keep people watching as well. Higher video completions tells YouTube that your video content is valuable, and that's going to make it more likely that your video will pop up in things like search results or in those suggested videos or on their home screen. So that's one of the things we want. We don't just want people clicking on our video and watching 5, 10, 30 seconds of it. We want them to watch all of it. So make sure that as you go through, that body is still really valuable and engaging to your audience. Once we've done that, once we've put all the meat on the bone, so to say, at the end, it's a great way to go about creating a loop or return to your opening idea. So think about the hook that you created at the beginning. How can you just loop it right back and reference that section from the beginning? So I mentioned the example being YouTube having 3 billion searches a month. So a great way to loop back to that is I might actually say, so if you go about creating videos and the way that we've talked about, you may be one of those, you may be lucky enough to be viewed in those 3 billion searches that people are making every single month. As you can see, I started with the hook and then I tried to bring it back to it with a loop at the end of it. And that is a great way to structure your script. The final element to it, once all that's complete, is you want to put down your call to action, which is what you want your audience to do now that they've watched your video. At the end of the day, this is social media marketing. We're not just making videos for the fun of it. We're creating this video because we want to effectively do something. So your call to action is designed to make people take the next step. So you need to think about what is the next ideal step you want them to do. Got a couple of examples up here. It might be to take a quiz. It might be to download some content that you've got, which goes into more detail. For us, to explore our courses, or say with APC, it's to explore the courses. It might even be to reach out. If you're trying to sell something, try to engage with them to reach out to you, or even buy your product if you're selling your content online. But regardless, you want to make sure that you've got that call to action. Don't just put this amazing video piece in front of them. But once they've got to the end of it, what is it that you want them to do? So on that note, from your own experiences, Tim, I'd love you to say, what is it with your organization? So if you're, if you're working for a brand at the moment, you're doing your studies to help you build knowledge about business or marketing. Think about the organization you're working with. What do you want people to do? What is the action that your organization wants people to take at the decision stage? Feel free to drop it in the chat. Do you want them to buy a product? Do you want them to register for an event? What is it that, after you've made your amazing YouTube videos off the back of today's session, what is it that you want your audience to do? So throw that into the chat. I'll draw back to those as we step through. But it's really important to think about that and make sure that we're not just creating videos for the sake of it, but once we get people to the end, we've got a strong call to action and we understand what the next step is we want our audience to take. So feel free to throw that into the chat, team. And as I begin to push on, I'll draw back to those. Now, I talked about the script, and that's obviously really important, particularly if we're doing a face to camera. So if we're doing an interview, so maybe we've got someone like John Tanner, our CEO, who's standing up there and creating a video talking about some of the social media elements that we like to educate our audience on. But particularly important is storyboarding, particularly if we're moving outside of that sort of interview stage of things. So a storyboard is usually the next step after you've written the script. We wouldn't recommend it if you're just recording a video where you're simply talking, because it doesn't really require all the extra elements. The storyboard is effectively a sketch of your ideas and how that video is going to look, almost like a cartoon. I'm going to show you an example of it in 2 seconds. It could be a great tool if you're aiming to create a video that's using different locations, different props, other visual effects, or maybe you're trying to edit a couple of elements in together. For instance, a storyboard is a great idea if you want to film a sketch, or if you're actually going to be talking about how a product works in the day in the life of your customer. However, like I mentioned, it's pretty useless if you want to film a reaction video. So you want to film how people are reacting, because you can't plan for that sort of stuff. But this is an example of our storyboard template. Quite often we have this in 3x3. This is just exactly what it would look like when we pop it up. So first off, we start with the title of the video, the date that we're going to be filming, names, and the page. It's really important to put a page number as well, because you've printed out a few of these and then you get them out of order. You're looking at them and you're thinking, which one comes first? So always number your pages if you're printing off your storyboard templates. So first off, you want to think about your screen. Your scene. Goodness me. You want to think about the scene. So what is going on in that scene? So an overview of what that scene's about. Now, you can actually use sketches if you want to sort of visualize what's going to happen in that scene. And also think about the shot. So what you want to think about with that is how long it's going to happen, how long it's going to take, as well as what style of shot you're going to do. Is it right up close or is it from far away? And you can also include there the location. The audio and script. So at this stage, if you are going to be scripting elements, if it is a little bit more of a sketch, great. What happens in that scene? Detail it, put a little bit more information there. And basically, then we do one of these for each and every scene that we're thinking about shooting. What this allows us to do is plan how we're going to bring that video together, because quite often videos aren't filmed sequentially. So by that, I mean, people won't go out there with the filming equipment and shoot it all in one shot. They'll film a bit here, a bit from the other side, maybe an angle from down low, and then they'll begin to bring it together and stitch it together. So it's really important to plan out using a storyboard template what you want that to look like. Had some chats come through. So because of COVID-19, I have to stay at home. You're looking forward to cooking channel and bakery channel. Absolutely. I can't agree more. I just saw an amazing video on how to cook garlic prawns. Feel free to hit me up if you want to hear that. The next stage after we've done the pre-production is the production. We've done the planning, we've created the script, we've built the storyboard, now we're rolling. I love this GIF. It's a GIF from Megan Batoon, who in herself, she has an amazing YouTube following as well. Just proof that things can go wrong at any stage of YouTube filming. But now we've done the pre-production, it's time for the production, i.e. the filming. If you've planned well, The production stage will be pretty seamless, and other than just jumping in front of a camera and recording, obviously, unless of course the lights fall over. You want to make sure that you're kitted up well. And so by kitted up, I mean you've got all the content that you need, all the tools that you need for the trade, such as setting up your tripod correctly, making sure the batteries are charged. I can't express. It sounds simple, but the amount of times we've been out on shoots for any of the brands I've worked for before, and you put the battery into the camera, and you see that little red flashing sign of death. So making sure the tripod's set up, making sure your batteries are charged, making sure you've got everything that you need to shoot correctly. Want to talk, as I mentioned, when it comes to this stage, we want to make sure we've got the right equipment. And effectively, they're going to be lumped into 3 areas. There's audio, stability, and then lighting. It really depends on how you want to record, obviously. So talking about recording on your phone, that's absolutely fine. In today's nature, most mobile phones have pretty good cameras on them. They usually equate to the quality of a DSLR from about 3 years ago. So in a lot of cases, the video capabilities we have on our phones are pretty damn good. That being said, we want to make sure we have all the other trimmings to make sure our videos are incredible. Audio is really important. Most mobile phones have what they call an omnidirectional microphone, which is why what happens, it picks up sound from all around us, which is why if you're talking to one of your friends and they're out in the park and you hear absolutely everything, you hear the bike going by, you hear the duck quacking in the background. It's really important that you don't want, if you're recording on your phone, you don't want to pick up absolutely everything, particularly if you're interviewing someone. So things like lapel mics, which they stick just on your shirt, you can pick them up for $80 from JB Hi-Fi. And they're incredible because sound can be one of the more challenging things to try to edit and fix in post-production. So you want to make sure you've got a good quality microphone to capture that video, that audio. And a lot of these will just plug straight into the bottom of a smartphone. From a stability point of view, whether it's a mini tripod or a larger one, making sure that, you don't have a very wobbly view when you're out capturing that content. Even some things like this, these stability handles, which means that if you're jogging or walking after someone as you're filming, it keeps it quite nice and stable due to a couple of mechanisms in there. So once again, it depends on the type of video content you're going to be creating. You want to make sure that it's nice and stable and it isn't shaking, because it's going to be incredibly irritating to your audience and they're not going to watch your video content. Lastly, lighting. If you're just going to be creating video content similar to what I'm doing now, although I'm talking to you guys rather than creating video content, you want to be aware of your lighting. And things like these ring lights that we've got here on the right-hand side of this slide, you can usually pick them up fairly cheaply, but lighting is going to be really important because you want people to be able to see what's going on. So whether it's just your face and you're talking to the camera, or whether you're actually doing something, you're acting something, you want the lighting to be outstanding. So ring lights are a really great place to start, but there are even amazing selfie kits like that on Amazon, which will allow you to take some great video content. If you're going to the next level, so if you're creating more content outside and you're creating some really higher and premium quality content, you're probably going to want to, what we do, kit up. You're going to want to take your video content to the next level. You're going to need some of this. And the top left there, we've got some lights, so some studio lights. They come in a variety of different forms and fashions. DSLRs, yes, like I said, your phone can be great quality, but nothing beats a good quality DSLR camera, so a digital camera that can capture much better video. It might have an optical lens on it and things like that. A tripod to make sure that, like I said, nice and stable. And whether it's a microphone, like you see that white one down the bottom, similar to what I've got sticking here, which might be out of shot for you guys, or it's a microphone in the top right corner. Like I said, you want to make sure your audio quality is great. In the bottom right, we've got what they call a green screen. Now, that can be incredible if you're doing some of those interview videos, because what you can do is you can put that green screen behind the person, and a video editor, whether that's going to be you or whether you're going to actually outsource that, what that means is they can then put their own background on your video. So they can have you, whether you're standing on the top of the Opera House or whether they're just putting graphics and images behind you, that green screen means you can eliminate whatever is behind you as you record that video. So it allows you to be very creative in that post-production stage. And the last thing I'll talk about is that one in sort of the middle right there. And what that is, it's a little kit that sits on the top of the tripod and in front of the camera. And you actually put your mobile phone resting on there. And what you do is you use your mobile phone like a teleprompter. So you actually load a script in a piece of a software called Parrot and these sorts of things. And they're really easy to Google if you're going to use that. What that does is you can put your script on your phone and it mirrors it. So as you're standing there looking gun barrel down the straight of that camera, you can then rattle off the script that you've prepared so you look like an absolute seasoned pro. Like I mentioned, that's going to be one of the really incredible things, is that if you manage to nail your lines, it means you're going to be have to do less editing afterwards, but it's also going to mean that you look incredibly professional when this video comes to tails. So once we've captured that content, so we've gone out, we've recorded it off the back of storyboarding and scripting, now comes the editing style. So editing is a lot of cases where the magic happens. You know, good editing can turn good video content into great video content. Think about the YouTube clips that you watch. And quite often, they're not just it's not just a recording of something, is it? There's a lot more going on. It's edited well together. There's a lot of different scenes, and there's graphics over the top of it, call outs and things like that. And so editing quite often, in some cases, can be the bulky part of the video process. This post-production stage can actually take a little bit longer than filming. We might be able to go out and film some content in 1 or 2 hours, but the editing process might take a day or two, depending on the size and the nature of the videos. When it comes to the videos, there's a couple of things. Obviously, you want to import all the tracks. I'll talk about some video editing software in 2 moments. You import all that video content into the tool you're going to use. And then what you do, you review it. You look at all the content you've got. You might begin to cut it up, put it in different sequences, etc., and do what we call the assembly, where you begin to assemble that structure of that video. You then might need to edit it. So you might actually need to clean up some of the audio, or maybe fine-tune some of the visuals, etc. And then also build those transitions. You'll notice that if you're watching some video clips and they'll transition between scenes, it will swipe across or fade in and fade out. But those transitions will make your video seem a lot more seamless. Once you've got that sort of time, what they call the timeline down, the last part of the editing sequence, which is probably, I'm not going to say the most important, because you want to make sure that it's all great, but the elements that you put over the top, and so these might be additional videos that you've sourced from elsewhere. It could be images, it could be graphics, it could be intro and outro stuff, even music. All those additional elements that you're going to put on your video, make sure it's really visually and audibly intriguing for your audience. If you're saying a couple of key phrases, like you're saying, did you know that there's 3 billion searches on YouTube every month? You might want a visual pop up that says 3 billion searches with a starburst, because that's going to look really visually cool to your audience. And not only that, it's going to make them remember a lot of the key things that you say. That's why in this stage, in the video editing stage, it's usually a little bit more work that goes on. Like I said, you might want to throw music on top of that. If you are doing YouTube clips, be very well aware that you don't steal other people's music. As much as we would love to throw up a video, the audio of Taylor Swift's latest song, that's against copyright, and you'll probably find your video taken down off YouTube. So make sure that you're either got the license to use the video, or there are some royalty-free sites out there that you can find to download some of those audio clips. And once you pull that all together, you review it, make your final tweaks, you export it and put it up onto YouTube. When you put it up on YouTube, we'll talk about how to make sure you post it correctly. You want to make sure that it's going up there for more people to see. When it comes to video editing, there's so many tools out there. There are a lot of different tools. iMovie is for anyone who uses a Mac. An iMac or a MacBook Pro, or whatever the case is, iMovie comes free on there. It's a pretty easy piece of software to be able to edit some things together. Oh, there we go, Nani. You've just talked about some software for teleprompting and video editing. So iMovie is a really great one if you're already using a Mac. It's on there. Otherwise, I've used a piece of software called Mavave, which is very similar to iMovie. Camtasia, which is that green and white C down the bottom. That's great for video editing, but also it does a lot of good screen capture. So if you're maybe doing walkthroughs on how to do something on a computer, you can actually record the screen as well. Canva. I'm going to talk about Canva in 2 seconds. Everyone's favorite free tool. There is a paid version, but Canva is a great tool. You can do video editing in Canva as well, which means you can stitch it all together. If you're really keen on getting a lot deeper into video, quite often a lot of one of the higher end pieces of software is called the Adobe Suite. So Adobe After Effects and Lightroom are some of the ones that people use to create amazing videos. So our video editor at SMC, that's what he uses. He uses the Adobe Suite to pull things together because it does give you a couple of additional pros. Very it is a bit more technical. It does take a little bit longer to master. There's a few other features and aspects to the Adobe Suite that will allow you to do things like that. That being said, there's tools like Lumen 5, which basically you can even just throw a blog into Lumen 5 and it will turn that blog into a video piece. So there's a variety of different tools out there, but I think if you're just getting started, Nani, if you don't know where you are on this stage, but iMovie or Mavave are really great to get jumping in and just begin to understand the editing process itself. But ideally, if this is something you want to do, begin to think about looking at things like a Camtasia or Adobe. When it comes to the teleprompter, the app that we use is called Parrot. Just like a parrot, like the birds that talk back to you, which I'm assuming is where they came up with it. The final thing when we're posting our content to YouTube, so once we've exported it and we're putting it up on YouTube, is you've got to make sure you've got a great thumbnail. So what a thumbnail is a static image that's displayed before your video is clicked on. So the thumbnail is often the first visual element that people see of your video when it appears in their home screen, or if it appears in their search results, or even down the right-hand side when it comes to suggested videos. So a good thumbnail will increase the amount of clicks. When people see it, if it's visually appealing, they're more likely to click on it if it's got a great thumbnail. And therefore, obviously, increased clicks means more views on your video. So making a great thumbnail is an essential part to make sure you're driving views and engagement for your video. So you want to make sure you nail your thumbnail. Nail your thumbnail. There we go. A little bit of tautology for you for a Friday afternoon. A couple of tips when it comes to creating a thumbnail. We generally encourage you to create a custom graphic. I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment. You want to make sure it's really visually attractive. Write an eye-catching title, so it might actually have different parts of your YouTube title in there. It might have some of the keywords, etc. But ensure the visuals, so the text and the actual images themselves, are large enough to read and recognize. So you don't want to make it too small. So as you can see there, this maybe the screenshot's a bit small, so it's okay. But as you can see there on the top left, we've got Instagram hashtags, how to select the most. Unfortunately, I've got the black part there, which means I can't quite see it there, but bad example, huh? You want to make sure that it's really easy to read so that people, when they see your thumbnail, know exactly what your video is about. Ideally, you want to include your logo, your brand's logo on the thumbnail, just because that way, at least they're seeing your brand, they're beginning to recognize it. And if you're using playlists, so if you're putting out more than one video and you're organizing them into playlists of, how to do X, Y, Z, or here's 15 funny videos on a certain topic, you might want to make sure your thumbnails have specific styles to it. So they might be particularly colored in a certain way, or they might, in this case, as you can see, we've got John, we've got Danny, we've got different presenters there, which are very visually shown. To create a great thumbnail, social media marketer's best friend, Canva. For those of you who haven't used Canva, I'll just quickly jump in and show you. There's a free version, so there is an actual free version of Canva as well, which is I think it's $17 for the paid version, which comes with a cool couple of extra kits and elements, but they've got an amazing free version, so you don't actually have to pay to use this incredible piece of software. So if you wanted to create a thumbnail, you just come up to the top, create a design. There we go, actually, YouTube thumbnail. Very easy to find. You can search all these amazing templates. So if you're a social media marketer, hopefully you've already heard about Canva and the amazing things it can do for us for creating any sort of social content, including these thumbnails. So what we could do is, as you can see here, it's got a couple of templates for our YouTube clip. How to train your puppy. There's a great one. But of course, one of the things that makes Canva even cooler is that we have the ability to move our own images and so forth in there. So if I wanted to get rid of some of this text, I could absolutely do that and say how to create amazing. Let me just move that box there. The great thing about doing a live demonstration, guys. There we go. I can edit that. It's still got some of these graphics here. And if I wanted to, I could even throw my own image down the bottom so they know that I'm the one that's doing this video. But all this is really editable. Then you can just very quickly download it and then upload that image that you've just created as the thumbnail for your video. It's an incredible tool I'd encourage you to play around with if you haven't. But like I mentioned, your thumbnail is actually such an important part of your YouTube clip because that's what's going to encourage people to click on and view your video. So team, if you have a preferred app, feel free to throw it into the chat box. So Nani, I'm not too sure if there's one you're looking at using there off the back of our discussions. But yes, if anyone has a preferred app when it comes to image or video editing software, what do you use? Tell us what's good or bad about it. We always love hearing about how people are using different pieces of software. Like I mentioned, I personally find Mavave really nice and easy to use. I'm not a high-end video editor. That's not where what my background is like, but I've found that a really, really cool and easy piece of software to utilize. So if you are using a particular editing software, toss it into the chat team. I'd love to hear what you're using. But very quickly, I'd like to wrap up with a couple of elements. Firstly, I just want to talk about the best practice when it comes to videos, particularly with YouTube. Firstly, you want to make sure you've got what they call an SEO optimized and engaging title. So SEO optimized just means it's search optimized. So as an example, you know, if you've created a video about light bulbs, about how to screw in a light bulb, actually having your video title of how to screw in a light bulb in 3 easy steps. So that way it's got more chance of being viewed when people are searching. And it's also got a really great engaging title because you're telling people how many steps they're going to take. Try to create engagement and intrigue early. Like I said, with that hook, try to throw out the value that you're going to be putting. Try to grab their interest with a statistic, with an anecdote, or with a challenging question. As this is social media marketing, you typically want to highlight the colors of your themes and your brand. You can use your logo as a watermark if you'd like, but typically you want to make sure that any brand colors that you have are really visible throughout the course of the video. As mentioned, throw that call to action in. Social media marketing. Once they've watched this video, what is it you want them to do? Write that great script. Write that great script, understanding your purpose, understanding your hook, your intro, the body, we've got the real meat of it, and followed by that call to action. And also distribute. Once you've created your video, how are you going to get in front of people? Ideally, people are going to be on YouTube and they're going to search for our video, they're going to come across it, and that's outstanding. But otherwise, are we going to pop it onto our website? Are we going to shoot it out via email or an EDM or a newsletter or something like that? You do also want to make sure that once you put all this effort in, you distribute it, you get it out in front of people. So sharing those links across to your YouTube video in whatever way you can, get those eyeballs on it. Anna, you say you use Magisto? Yep. An action director. I've used Magisto before. That's a fantastic piece as well. I haven't used Action Director though, but that's really interesting. Team, I just wanted to very quickly wrap up with this. This is I did a lot of work in the not-for-profit industry in the last couple of years, and this is an amazing video which I think really hits the nail on the head with a lot of the things that we've talked about. So I'm just going to play this for you right now.
Refugees of scum?
No, so.
Excuse me? Refugees of scum?
Why?
Man, they're a waste on the economy.
Serious?
Yeah, we spend so much on trying to protect them.
Are you wearing them?
Doesn't make the point very well?
No.
I think it does, man. Seriously.
Let's get back.
How much we spend?
Are you wearing them?
Doesn't make the point very well?
No.
I think it does, man.
Seriously wearing that, mate?
Yeah.
The refugees aren't scum. You're fucking ridiculous.
Man, just take this.
Disgrace.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, me too.
Yeah?
I agree.
Help the refugees? Hi, how are you? Help the refugees?
So Tim, that's an amazing, amazing clip there. I think it nailed a few elements that we've been talking about in today's session. Had a really great hook at the beginning, had a really interesting sort of grab because you're thinking, that's a ridiculous thing to say. It's got that amazing call to action at the end. Obviously, this was a social experiment video, so they've sort of stitched it together afterwards. It's not something you could probably create too much of a storyboard or a script for. It's been edited so well together because they've begun to tell that story as it's gone through. Well done video, absolutely. It is one of my favorites because it grabs you very early on, and then at the end it has a twist, and then has a very strong call to action. Like I said, emotion is such a powerful tool to use, and that's one of the things that video can do that static images and blogs can't do, is that strong emotional thing that it creates that intrigue. So team, I really hope you've enjoyed today's masterclass about how to make YouTube videos like the pros. We covered the value of YouTube. We talked about how huge it is and some of the benefits for us as organizations, businesses, social media marketers. We then talked about scripting and the storyboard and how to make sure that you plan in that pre-production stage. And we started talking about some of that kit you're going to need, some of the different elements around lighting, audio, etc., and how to then put it into play when it comes to stitch it together with your editing, as well as making sure you've got that killer thumbnail as well. So, team, almost bang on the 4 o'clock mark, which is fantastic. If anyone has any questions, I think I saw a couple come through. That's just a compliment, which is great. If you do have any questions, feel free to throw it into the question box at the moment. But I really do hope you all took an awful lot away from that session around how to create YouTube clips like the pros.
Thank you so much, Gareth. Gareth is from Social Media College. They provide our diploma of social media marketing, which is here at APC. At the moment, because of COVID and tuition fee relief, it's $1,000 a term. So if that's something that you would like to learn more about, if you would like to become a YouTube, do you say YouTube influencer? I haven't done the diploma of social media marketing. Can I say YouTube influencer? Does that make sense?
You can absolutely say YouTube influencer. I haven't gone down that route. I don't think I've got the charisma and the talent, but if that's what someone's looking for, absolutely, yeah.
All right, so we'll leave the questions there, the Q&A just for another sort of minute or so. Thank you all so much for coming. Gareth, thank you so much for all the information. And I suppose if there are no questions, we'll actually end with our final poll, which I'll just throw out to you now. Did you find this session useful? So this helps us, decide how to, what to do with our content going forward. You were talking before, Gareth, about, thumbs up and thumbs down. And,
yeah, absolutely. I'm not too sure if I have to send any digital money to anyone to make sure I bribe them to give me a great rating. But absolutely, we love to hear, we love feedback on these masterclass that we roll out with APC, because that's the idea. We want to add value. We want to cover off interesting and valuable topics to give you guys a little bit of extra knowledge in and around some key social media areas.
Beautiful. And people are saying, resoundingly, they're saying yes, definitely. So that's very nice.
On a Friday afternoon, just before a long weekend as well, that we're able to keep people's attention. Yeah.
Beautiful. On that note, see you later, guys. Have a lovely long weekend. If you're in New South Wales or Queensland, if you're anywhere else in the world, I don't know. Have a nice weekend anyway. And we'll see you next time.